Hello guys, today we'll have another code review of more or less junior developer who created this website for mortgage and finance with things like book an appointment and with admin area, and I will show you that in a minute. But before we do that code review, I want to show you something. I've created a separate playlist because this will be my code review number 12 already. So I started pretty recently, but already have a few very popular code reviews, so I've created a separate playlist. So if you want to receive other code reviews, there are 11 videos at the moment and there will be 12. And here on the right side you see all the list. It's both reviews for junior code and some reviews of more professional code. And from here I will try to make it more searchable, because the thing I see now, those code reviews are even titled in a similar way, so I don't remember which is which. And maybe I can advise something to someone by pointing out to some specific code review or specific topic. So I will write a more detailed description of what do we discuss during that code review and what we have learned, and maybe it will be more searchable in the future. And speaking about more popular code reviews, I can celebrate now because my very first code review, this one, reached 100,000 views. So this number. Can you imagine? I haven't imagined that number or haven't expected anything like that. So apparently code reviews, I've touched a hot topic and you like it and you want more of that. So let's continue with that and let's do another code review for this mortgage product. In this review, among other things, you will learn how to launch Artisan commands without terminal on the shared hosting probably. Then some security issues, what happens if you forget a middleware, and then how to structure things like routes, views, controllers, and all of that typical Laravel stuff. So let's start with routes, as usual. And in the beginning of routes, you immediately can see why it is great to use IDE like PHP Storm. I'm not sure if it happens the same way in VS Code or Sublime, but in this case, it immediately points what is wrong. So this controller isn't used in the routes, this as well, and storage isn't used. And in this case, contact controller doesn't even exist. So just a general advice, do more cleanup. The code still works, but there are a lot of things that are underlined here. Next, this part. And this is pretty interesting. I haven't seen much of it before, but then I remembered why it is done this way. So there is a route clear that performs a lot of Artisan commands and basically clears a lot of stuff. Similarly, route migrate for the migration and route storage link for the storage link command. Why would you do that? So why would you make a web route for the Artisan calls? And it's usually done on shared hosting where you don't have access to the terminal directly, so you cannot SSH into the machine, so you create special routes that perform them for you. And it's pretty convenient, but the problem here is those routes are public. So someone can go into the browser and type clear and launch that command without developer knowing. And some of them may be a security issue, so key generate should be actually run only once in the project probably, because regenerating the key regenerates the sessions for the users, from what I remember the logic. And then migration, it's probably safe, but you never know what's in your migration files. So my advice here would be to hide all of those under some kind of middleware, at least auth middleware, or maybe even more permissions. And auth middleware is used later in the project, so there are admin controllers like this one, so dashboard controllers and other controllers. So I would do those things as a method in dashboard controllers or other controllers, because dashboard controller is protected by auth. Next, I want to stop with this index controller and welcome. If we go to that index controller, it gets the data and loads front end welcome. So if we open that welcome blade, it looks like this. So extends the layout, then there's a header, then there's a body with a lot of includes, which is fine. Just one thing with the include here with comment. This is an HTML comment, which means that this would be actually rendered by Laravel, and the final code will be commented out, but will be present. Not sure if developer meant it exactly that. Maybe they wanted to comment out the whole rendering of the include. So in Laravel, it's a different syntax of commenting. So there is a blade, this syntax, so dash dash, and then if you put include in here, Then as you can see, it's even in different color, which means it's not active, so it is commented on Laravel level and won't be even rendered. So keep in mind, do you want to render or do you want to totally skip the include? Now in all the files for all that project, so there's a front end and then there are pages, like 10 or 15 pages. I saw a thing repeating and I want to challenge that. So privacy policy, you can see section header include. Then whatever page, feedback, section header include. I think there's no need to have a section here. I think it should be done in a different way. So we open a section, we open one include, which is the same for all the pages from what I've seen so far. So probably if it's the same for every page, it should be moved to Layouts app instead. Unless the section header does something specific. Let's search for it in the Layouts app, header. So it doesn't seem to have any variables. Let's take a look at here, header. Does it have any variables or dynamic elements? And so far I don't see any of them. Let's search for $. No, it's from jQuery. So I think that whole thing should be moved from the specific page here into here instead of yield header, include like this. And then in all the other pages, you may skip the section altogether. Maybe I've missed something here, but I think that section is unnecessary. Next, in the routes, if we scroll down, there's a shorter way to do that. So if your route has only view returned, you can directly do route view, and then you don't need to have callback function. You just need to pass the name of the view like this with name. So this will be the line. Why is it underlined? Oh, I forgot the comma here. So two parameters, URL and route view. And probably name should be in new line. And with such tips, I feel like I'm repeating myself. So every code review has something similar to other code reviews. So I've mentioned that route view in the code review before, just a few days ago. So in the future, I will think whether to repeat the same things all over for every individual or just point you to the other code review. Okay, scroll down to the routes to the controllers. Now if we get to book appointment controller on the website, you can download the ebook. I think this is the link. Then you can book an appointment. So this is the form. And then you can subscribe to newsletter. I think it's in the footer somewhere. And what else you can do? You can give the feedback. And my challenge here is the naming of the controller. So all those four things are attached to book appointment controller. Whereas in fact, the appointment happens only in one case, appointment book. So that book appointment controller actually takes care of just store, which is store appointment, and it is good. But then store subscribers, store feedback, store ebook download. So I would challenge that. So those ebook downloads, newsletter, and feedback should be in a separate controller, like home controller maybe or something like that. So book appointment is specifically for appointments and everything else is for everything else separately. I know it's just a naming issue, but I'm challenging that because other developers in the future may read that code and think that newsletter has something to do with appointment booking. And it's not the case. They are totally different things. Next, if we scroll down to the admin group of controllers, I see inconsistency. And in general, it's a typical thing for junior code. So this is my 12th review or something. Junior developers are really inconsistent in the way they write code. So one part is written in one way, another part is in another way, and both work, and we move on and don't touch it. I think cleanup of the code for readability is a quite important thing, and it actually may raise your level from junior to mid or to senior, so you clean up after yourself. And here we have controller used in Laravel 8 syntax, and down below we go back to old syntax from clickable controllers, where I can click with my PHP Storm, to not clickable controllers, and I cannot click here. So why don't we do that in one way and reference dashboard controller like we did here. And then that dashboard controller is generated in the use section, or in fact it was already here, remember, in the very beginning of the video. So now we actually use that. So I would challenge that we need to stick to one syntax. So for example, contact controller, and there are two controllers, contact and admin contact controller. Maybe that was the reason why it wasn't used this way. Let's try another one, address controller. Address controller. It's one address controller, And then I would suggest to go through other controllers and probably move that to the use section on top, and it would be the same syntax then. Now I see another thing that I see a lot in junior code reviews, that route resources are used for things that are not actually resource. Let's take a look at dashboard controller. What it has inside: index, and then other resource methods. But do you see any code inside of that? Show, edit, update, destroy, they're all empty. And dashboard is what? It's just one dashboard. So there's no create dashboard or edit dashboard. So instead of route resource, in this case, it should be route get with controller class, method index, and delete all the methods except for what you actually use. And this controller is much shorter then. So I haven't checked all the controllers, but I'm pretty sure a few of them are also not resource controllers, but just one or two methods. And now I will show you why it is beneficial to add the middleware in the routes instead of separate controllers. So in here you have slider controller and other controllers, and the middleware auth is assigned in the controller. The tricky part here is, I will show you first, this is an admin area. It's really simple. So I've created a user for myself manually in the database, and we have an error with dashboard index. I forgot while refactoring to assign a name here. So route get should be name dashboard index. Because it came from the route resource before, now we have to manually assign it. Refresh, and here's our dashboard. And it's all fine and working, and you can manage ebooks, appointments, and all of that. But look what happens if I log out, or in fact, how can I log out? That's an interesting thing. So there's no logout button or link. Probably they think they don't need it, but here's a trick for you, by the way. What if you don't have logout button, and in Laravel you cannot just go /logout because it's a form, it's a post request. So the trick for you is to clear the cookies. Clear the cookies of that particular website. Remove the cookie, done. And if we refresh, Laravel test, login, and try to go to admin dashboard, we will be redirected out to login. So we are logged out. But now, interesting thing, let's take a look at other controllers, and for example, ebook controller. Do you see any middleware here? I don't. So let's try to launch that ebook. Remember, we're logged out. /admin/ebook. And we're into the dashboard. So this is a security issue, and I think that should convince you that it's better to assign a middleware here, like this, middleware auth, instead of doing that separately in the controllers, because when creating a new controller, or maybe other developer will create that controller, they may forget to add that middleware. And final thing I wanted to show you is how to not assume that the data is in the database. So we have contact controller for the admin area, and it is used probably to manage home stuff like contact, and then there's address, there's social media, similar controllers. So there is address controller, which takes the address with ID 1, and then there's a store or update method, edit and update actually, which just updates the address record and the contact record. I'm assuming it's for the home page. But what actually happens here? You take the contact with ID 1. Do we have any contact for a new project, which I've just downloaded and installed? Database seeds, we don't have any contacts here. And in the database, if we go to contacts table, it's empty. Same for addresses. So if I go to that admin area page, click on contact, and I see an error, undefined offset. So there are two things I can advise here. First, do not assume that the data is in the database. If you do something like this, then you need to check if there is a contact. Probably it should be get. It's not even get, it should be first actually, because we have one contact probably. And let's actually take a look at contact index, how it is referenced here. Okay, contact information, form, email address, and the value is contact 0, of course. It's not an array. There's one contact, from what I understand in this logic, so it should be first here, and then we don't need 0 here. And then it should be better to do first or fail, which means that if the contact is not found, it will not show the error like this in Laravel. It should show 404 not found. Or even better, in this case, that page doesn't really say anything to the user, So first, and then if no contact, we can redirect somewhere with specific error message, or you just can return contact not found, check the database without any design. So if we refresh now, we will see that error. Or probably a better way would be to have it in the blade admin contact index. So you check in here at the very top. So if contact, then you have all that form, otherwise, else, and if no contact found. Like this. Let's refresh, and we have no contact found. So that's better because they can navigate to wherever they want from here. And then I would challenge the whole idea of having an index for a separate contact, then having an index for specific address controller and for others. I think I have a theory that those all should be in the settings controller somewhere. So it should be settings or config table in the database. And then there would be one form to manage contact details, address, and others. So it would be total like of 10 fields or something that would be in the same database table in one controller and on one page to manage instead of those 3 or 4 separate pages. So that's all I have for this review. These are the things I found. It doesn't mean that the code is bad. I found a few issues here and there, but those who send me the code for review, and this time it was from Twitter, be prepared to have some criticism from me. But it's great from your side that you are brave enough to have your code challenged, and only in this way we learn together. So I learn actually from these videos about the topics that I need to shoot other videos in the future, because I see weak spots in some junior code and what do I need to repeat. And you all learn, not only that person from that project, but you all, I hope you learn something here and there how to make your code better. If you want more code reviews like this one, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support me on my mission financially, check out one of the 3 products you can see on the screen. My Livewire kit set of components. If we start from the bottom, then we have my courses. Now it's 16 courses on Teachable. And then you can use Laravel Quick Admin Panel Generator. See you guys in other videos.